We did have a few inquiries saying, well, you're doing all this filling, how does it pull apart? Does it pull the filler off? There we go, drum roll. Crisp. Oh, keep doing it, Sean, keep doing it. Oh. Oh. No breakout whatsoever, crisp. That is fantastic. Hello, welcome, Ryan here from the London Craftsman channel. Do you like the slide? Yeah, thought you did. Alright, so today's video is all about sanding all of this. All of these bits of MDF using the stacking method. The stacking method, I believe, is my original idea. Yep, I'm that clever. And it is one of the three that I showed last week. So if you're interested in seeing two others, you better go back and watch that video. It'll be up in the link right now. And I'm going to show you exactly how we get all of these edges up to a nice, completely flat, perfect finish, ready for top coats in no time at all. So yeah, we've got the P80, we've got P120 and P240. We've got ready mix filler. You probably go through at least a third of this pot, at least on a spot board for a job like this. So be aware that you do go through quite a bit. We've got our spreader, a nice wide one, maybe a 3-inch or a 4-inch. The bigger, the better. What else? We've got a 4-inch roller with a gloss roller head on it and a tray. And of course, we've got the primer. Any primer undercoat that is good for sealing edges or that says it's for MDF or timber. That is what you need. We're just using water-based. This will go a long way. This will last you a couple of years if you did the pack technique over and over and over weekly. It lasts a long, long time. And of course, you've got your clamps to clamp your work. You've got your mask. Do not work without your mask if you're sanding anything. To be honest, anything in the workshop, always wear your mask. And of course, we need the tools to do the job. We've got the Makita sander. The Makita sander, it's a BO6030. Again, we're going to be trialing the trend version pretty soon, the cordless version. And we've got it connected to our hose. So when we turn the sander on, etc., it sucks out the dust. Oh, and breathe. So, first things first. Sean, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Do the walk. Do the walk. Oh, see that?
Yeah.
He's done the walk. So he's got the P80 loaded on the sander, and he's just going to go over the pack in an up and down motion. Because remember, the 80 is what's going to get it to the uniform flatness, getting the whole pack completely flat. Any steps, any ridges, any nooks and crannies, any saw cuts. We're going to try and get rid of all of these. Sean's done this quite a lot. He's got quite a lot of experience on these packs. And every now and then he'll have a feel with his hand to see where he is. He's got it pretty damn good at the moment. But if you look at the light, can you see those little ridges here? Here, if we look closely, we've still got a couple of saw cuts. So this is where the filler comes in hand. We're not going to keep on going and work back another whole mil to get rid of that. Filler is going to do that job for us. So this is what the P80 is for. It's just to flatten it, to get most of it out. We don't necessarily have to get every single mark out, but most of them before we get the filler on. There we go. So that's the P80 done. Got it down to a lovely flat surface. Some saw cuts still remain. Absolutely fine. This is the point of the filler. Let's move on to this pack, show you what we've got here as well. Nice and flat. Okay, so now we're just going to move on. We could cheat if we really wanted to. Shortcut is to go straight to the P240, and we have done it before. We're not really noticing that much difference, but we're going to stick to the usual routine of a quick go over of 120, and then we'll do the 240. So we've done jobs that are maybe 100, 150 components, maybe even more, where we use this technique. So get all the edges up on 150 components in less than an hour. Pretty awesome, really. Even if we're using the edger, the Vertex edger, it's still going to take you 2 or 3 minutes per piece to edge. So I really do love this technique. It's fast, it's cheap, it's easy, and it's bulletproof. Now let's go with the P240, Sean. So this is the P240 now. see it's really polishing up those edges. And this is why I'm not really a fan of sealer, liquid sealer, because they don't really get rid of the pitting. I like the filler because it fills any nooks and crannies. You can overfill the filler. When you sand back the filler, you can leave a very small micron layer of filler over it, not sanding it completely back, but just about. They are like glass by the time you finished. You can see the black lines showing a little bit more, and that's a sign of them getting polished up. Right, so that's the initial part of the sanding done. We are going to do a little tickle right at the end with sandpaper, but that's going to be with a hand paper, and it's literally going to take us 30 seconds. Stay right to the end to see why we're actually going to do that. But now we're just going to get the filler on the board, use our 3-inch spreader, and we're going to just start filling these edges. Before we do, we're just going to get the brush and just dust that surface back. Right, windows open, extraction on, and dust masks on. Not much is going to come off, to be fair. I've got my mask on. And you want to use can you see the quick motion? What that's doing is sucking off the dust as well as brushing it off. If you do it really slowly, you just don't get it out the nooks and crannies. So I just wanted to show you something. Sean's very good at this anyway. If you've got your filler on a board, like so, use your wide filler, you want to just have it at an angle. So mix it, play around with it, scoop it, flick it back on. And always, every time you spread on, get the excess, clean off your knife and go for another go. So I'm always playing around with my filler. Then to pick up the filler, you scrape it down. It's always going to stick, and that's what you got. When you're applying the filler, make sure that you push it on and half bend your knife. So as you're applying it, you want to put a little bit of a curve into your filler knife, like so, and keep it like that, and slowly drag the angle in as you're releasing the filler as you go, and that will apply all the filler off of your knife in one go. Let's see if Sean is up to the task, yeah? Sean's on the case. We've got a little board on the floor, and to be honest, it doesn't matter how you apply this stuff, as long as you push it on and you take as much off at the ends, that's all that matters. This is why we've got a whole ton of it. We go through quite a bit. You put it on heavy. Sean's got a little bit of a different technique to me. He keeps his spreader a little bit more of an angle, but he's not as good as his boss. He's got another 20 years to go. Can you see how it's just filling all the nooks and crannies? There's a little bit of the saw cuts filled. To be honest, we don't necessarily have to scrape back the entire amount. We could have left it on a bit fatter, but the more you do, the longer it's going to take to fill. All you got to do is make sure that once you finish sanding, there's no steps, as in from one board to another, because that's the bit that's going to throw you out. And we are going to dry this. Once he's applied on both packs, we are going to just get the heater on it and dry it pretty quick. Just make sure you have a look over and there's no dry spots anywhere. Everything's been touched with filler. Again, doesn't matter how neat or tidy you are, because it's going to turn into dust once it's dry and we've sanded it, and it will disappear in no time at all. Second pack, putting it on, scraping excess off to keep it back on the knife. Every now and then he could, if he's just getting messy fingers, he'll just get the remaining on the spot board, clean his knife out and get another run. As you're spreading anyway, that MDF is going to draw the moisture out of your filler, and you'll feel like it's getting harder and harder to spread if you've got a big lump. So you're trying to use that whole lump on your spreader knife, and you've done half the pack with that one thing, and you're like, oh, it's getting hard, it's drying out. Get the rest of it that's on your knife, put it back in with the remaining, mix it all up, give it a little mix up, Sean. Yeah, mix it up so it's all consistent again, and reapply it on your knife. And that is it, really. You don't need an A level to do this stuff. Trust me, we haven't got any. We've got like 5 Fs between us, Sean, haven't we? Nah, that's F stands for fantastic. All right, leave that last bit for me, Sean, and we're going to compare techniques of spreading. Show the angle that you spread. There you go. You're quite angled, right? Right, I'm going to get a bit on and I'm going to apply it to here. And let's see if there's a difference in technique between spreading. We're swapping tools. I'm back. I know you've been itching to see me again. So nice bit, okay? That's what I'm going to work with. Okay, so I'm going to spread that as far as I can. Scrape it off. We're supposed to take it off, yeah. To apply it, can you see the angle getting smaller and smaller and smaller? Apply the whole lot. Scrape it off. So maybe I'm a little bit more efficient in my spreading. Again. And I keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Yeah, he made it. And then we can just scrape that excess off. Yeah. And we're going to go back to that, clean the knife up. yeah. Oh, I do miss the filling. Small bits, the easiest way I find. A little bit, not a massive amount, nice and clean on your knife. A couple of flicks, so sideways. Bend your filler knife to get it on. Keep your knife flat as you're spreading it off and bend it in as you're going. Yeah, that is it. Right, so that's my technique. Don't know if you could compare the both. And all we would simply do with that is put it back in the tub. But we're going to put it in, we've got 2 tubs. We're most likely going to put it in the older tub. Keep the fresh stuff fresh. Let's get that heater on. Okay, so we've got the kerosene heater, and this is the brand that we've got. It's a diesel or a kerosene heater. This will dry it in no time. It's pretty warm outside as well. We've got a warm breeze going. We've got the windows open for ventilation. We've skimmed off as much excess as we thought we could. You can see the filler already drying. And that's going to be 10 minutes. So we're going to let it dry before we then sand it back. Just a quick thing, before you finish, just make sure you get all the excess filler off. Maybe get a sponge or something. Don't let it go hard on the knife, because you end up sanding it with a orbital sander. Before you know it, it's like a bloody kitchen knife, so sharp because you've sanded it so much. So clean that with a sponge. Don't be lazy. Oh, it's lovely and warm in here. Remember guys, so what you're seeing here is a long-winded, it seems, because we're filming at the same time. If you're doing it yourself, you do get through it really quick. This should really take you no longer from start to finish than 45 minutes. And as you can see here, we've got about 25-30 components. Break that down. It doesn't, you know, it probably only works out to about a minute a piece in the grand scheme of things. So it's really, really fast for large amounts of MDF. Right, heater's off and the pack is completely dry. As you can see, no dark filler. So yeah, Sean, let's get cracking. Let's stick the 240 in this time. Remember, P240 only. All right, allons-y. The key is not just to keep going to get all the filler off. Like that is there for a reason. It's got a little dip. So when it was cut, obviously there was a little dip with the saw cut. Absolutely fine. Paint will go over there and cover it. Again, that's a perfect example of why we need the filler. All those saw cuts being filled. Just double check you're happy, have a little feel, make sure there's no lumps and bumps. I mean, I'd say if anything there, because it's got a tiny little step between the filler. I hate it when that happens, when it's not smoothed out. We want a transition like that, not a transition like that, otherwise you get those in the paint. Yeah, feel it? Feel nice? Cool. All right, so that's pack 1 done. Simple as that. You happy? Whatever we leave this at now is basically the flatness that we're going to keep for the rest. So you happy with that? I'm happy with that. Okay, so that is the sanding, the filling, and the sanding back, and it should feel like glass. Yep, we've got that lovely glass feeling. No lumps and bumps, completely smooth on all packs. So all we need to do from this point on is prime. So these still need priming with paint if you are painting, as obviously you wouldn't be doing this if you weren't painting. We need to get those up to a top coat standard. So we need to use an acrylic primer. I feel an acrylic is really good to use. We used to use Zinsser in our old videos. Still works fine, it's just very expensive paint. We're going to do 2 coats of this. With the Zinsser you might get away with 1, but this is so cheap, it's just worth the extra couple of minutes. The paint a bit of a shake, pour a little bit out into the tub, make sure it's clean, no bits and pieces. And then we're just going to coat that roller, give us a helping hand. And that's going to cover really, really nicely. And instead of doing every single piece separately, it just makes sense, doesn't it, as a whole pack? And this, again, if the filler has missed any bits and pieces at all, this paint is going to be like a high build filler. It dries really nicely and it sands really, really flat, this stuff. Really easy to sand back. So you'll have no trouble whatsoever. We're using a gloss roller, by the way. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And it's covering all those bits of filler. So this is why I said it doesn't matter what it looks like. When you fill, it's not going to look pretty until you've finished. But for the sake of about an hour's worth of treatments As you're seeing right now, you're going to get really, really fantastic edges. Don't worry about these little bits of filler. When you break the pack apart, the little overhangs, the little bogies hanging off, they're just going to snap right off. So it has got quite high coverage, this, but I still think one more coat, it's going to make our life a lot easier when it comes to top coat spraying. See, once we finish this whole pack, we would literally just break the pack apart, stack them up against the wall, and then we'll start machining piece by piece. We'll be trimming all the arises with our 1.6mm radius cutter or our trimmer, and then we'll just start machining all our biscuits and sanding the faces, and then it just goes all the way down there into our spray room, ready for top coat. Don't worry about little bits and pieces that are stuck in the paint. It's quite an old paint now. We've opened that tin about 100 times. All right, so we're going to turn that heater on now. There we go, we're going to just let that dry. It's only going to take 2 or 3 minutes. The filler took about 10 minutes in total. This paint will take a couple of minutes. So we're going to come back, do that process once more, and we'll be ready for the final denib. Pack will be done. Okay, so the paint is dry, first coat, and all we've got is a piece of 240. And we're literally just going to spend 30 seconds on this pack, no more. And all that's doing is taking any bits of paint that, or bits of dust or anything, bits and pieces that were stuck in the paint, any blobs, flattening it down nice and flat. Yeah, nice flat surface now. And that's going to just create a lovely flat surface for the next layer. You can see loads of bits and pieces here. Going to get rid of those. Otherwise, all we're doing is adding to it on the second layer, second pack. We could use the orbital. Yep, you're right. Whoever asked that question. But I don't want to go too heavy and go back to MDF. So this is all we need to do, nothing more, nothing less. That is done. We're getting very, very close. We could leave it like this if you're lazy and you know you're going to do 3 or 4 top coats. This will be absolutely fine. Done it lots of times, one coat. It will work for you. Now, if you want to do it properly, let's do one more coat. So dust down, a good blast of air with a brush, and that's going to get any dust out of the crevices. And then all we're simply going to do is one more coat, and we're nearly there. And look how nice this is going to cover now. Near enough solid, isn't it? Fantastic. And it's worth doing. I mean, it only takes a few minutes, let's be honest. And again, any more imperfections that you have on these blocks that you may have missed, this is going to help out even more. And look how solid that looks compared to that. It's worth it, isn't it? It almost looks like one whole block. Heater on once more. Blast that for 10 minutes. Okay, so let's just finish this off with one final denib, the P240 once more, just to get rid of any more high spots that last paint has left. Nice and solid now, well worth doing that second coat. So let's just recall what we've done. We sanded with P80, P120, 240. We dusted it back, we filled it, we dried it. We sanded that filler back with P240. We dusted it down, and then we just gave it 2 coats, let it dry in between, and denib in between with the hand paper. And that is it. Okay, so now Sean is done. Whole job's complete. I promised you that I was going to show you what it's like as the pack is split apart. Sean, let's just show them what the filler breaks apart like. And because we did have a few inquiries saying, well, you're doing all this filling, how does it pull apart? Does it pull the filler off? There we go. Look how crisp that is. Yep. Crisp. Crisp. Oh, keep doing it, Sean. Keep doing it. Oh. Oh. No breakout whatsoever. Crisp. That is fantastic. Wow. So, we're not going to do the whole pack. That would just be boring. If you liked what you see or saw, please subscribe, share it. Everything that you see here has taken a few years to perfect. We've just tried, and we just trial and error on lots of different bits and pieces to get to this stage, and we're giving it away for free. So if you feel that's going to help, send Sean £5 in the post. Remember, he needs a girlfriend. Any Susan Balls out there? Plus I do too. I'm joking. All right, guys, I really hope you enjoyed that. A little bit long-winded, but it was a comprehensive overview of this process, the stacking technique, which I perfected, Sean and I have perfected over the years. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have, thumbs up, subscribe. Gonna love you and leave you. Take it easy. Ciao for now.